Sorry, I was so nervous I was running off the stage. Which really is an injustice because Barry and Adam are just you are such a treat. They're not only fantastic business people, but they are really smart and wonderful men who have been generous with their time and their expertise, and I'm so grateful that I didn't have to speak after them. So good luck.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks. Take care.
So good morning, everybody. A quick show of hands. We're going to make this interactive. Who is currently not in their first job, that first job from high school or college? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. You come on. Raise your hand. You're not in the first job. Okay. Looks good.
Looks good. Looks like we might have some quitters on our hands. Have you ever felt that you're in the wrong job, wrong company, maybe even the wrong industry?
You ever feel that the job you're in doesn't really suit who you are at your core?
Have you ever done something purely for economic reasons or because it's easy or safe?
You ever feel that dream you originally had when you were younger, where you wanted to be with your life, sometime went someplace to die?
When Adam and I got asked to speak, we're friends, so we compared notes on what we wanted to talk about. And we wanted to talk about the same thing, and that is how we both had pivoted from one business and one industry to a different one and share our experiences with you about it. So we're doing it here today together.
And while you probably couldn't pick two different businesses than storage units and cannabis-infused beverages, what we did find is that there were four central themes. And whether you're in business, you see this a lot. Four themes that we both dealt with in our transition.
Growing up, we had a family friend named Eldon Snoozy. Now, Eldon had a lot of free time and money at a relatively young age. So when I finished school and decided what to do to support myself, I thought, gosh, why not just do what Eldon does? It seems to work for him. Well, Eldon's in real estate, and Eldon got me a job with Robert Randall. I spent 10 years learning how to invest in real estate with Mr. Randall, and then quit and started my own company, Business Property Trust. We bought business parks like the picture you see here, up and down the West Coast that were underperforming, improved their value, and made money that way. Ultimately, we bought 25 of these, and at the height, it was worth $100 million. I was working 80 hours, but I got my hours down to about 30 and started a family. And at that point, life was pretty good.
So similar to Barry, I didn't originally start in the cannabis business. It's a newer industry, as many of you maybe know. I started in e-commerce, and much to my parents' chagrin, my sophomore year in high school, I decided to sell paintball guns from their basement, which went over, as you'd imagine, pretty well. Things over the next 10 years just kind of ballooned. We ended up acquiring two other businesses, e-commerce businesses, merged them into the same infrastructure, pick, pack, ship, accounting, marketing, and things were good. We grew the business to $10 million in revenue. We had a management team in place to help us grow. Ended up buying a 40,000 square foot building in upper downtown Vancouver. Even ended up with a brief spot on 60 Minutes, me with Leslie Stahl there. Things were pretty good. I was taking 2 months off a year. I backpacked 50 countries around the world, and life was good.
But suddenly I found myself in a conference room in a fancy high-rise office building in the financial district of San Francisco. I was in the special assets department of Wells Fargo Bank. It turned out we'd borrowed a lot of money to buy those business parks. And ultimately, unlike residential mortgages that have 30 years to pay off, commercial loans are shorter, it turns out. 3, 5, 7, 10-year term loans mostly. And many of our loans were coming due at a point when no lenders were interested in loaning any money. So while I sat across from these 6 very well-dressed bankers, and they were talking about what my opportunities are, I wasn't really listening. I really tuned out after the first minute or so, and I wasn't enjoying the view either. Instead, things were racing through my mind. I was really kind of in a bind. This was a serious situation. And I also was wondering, I'm not going to lose my home over this, am I? A lot was going through my mind. Essentially, what was a good business became an okay business, and then became a bad business, essentially overnight, as our tenants could no longer afford to pay the rent. one day, one bad day went to another bad day, went to another bad day. It was a very tough period of time. Ultimately, it threatened the business and the well-being of my young family.
Similar to Barry, we found that the sun doesn't shine forever, and in 2008, first part of 2009, we had the perfect storm that coalesced on our business, and that was, one, a significant Google algorithm change that reduced our site traffic by about 50% in concert with just the general economic environment. Meant our sales 24 months following that fell in half. We immediately, as I'm sure many of you know, you have to get pretty tight on the P&L at that point. Ended up having to cut the management team. That meant I was doing all the work I probably wasn't very great at, working a lot of hours, getting stressed out. Eventually, we received our bank came to us and they called our operating line of credit. I woke up every day without the team to do the work, but the work was still in front of me, and would come home defeated every day, like I couldn't get ahead. I just couldn't make traction no matter how hard I worked. I ended up going to seek help. I was diagnosed with situational depression, and every day was a fight to get out of bed and just have the energy to hit it again. Things were not good.
Now, the pivot light bulb for me went off at a very specific time, and it happened at an EO event. Mark Moses was the speaker, and it was right at the beginning of the recession. And Mark says, okay, a third of you are going to die. A third of you will barely survive, and then a third of you will thrive. So I slowly raised my hand. Mark, how can I be in that group? And Mark says, well, I can't tell you everything. I'll tell you one thing. Find what's going right in your business and do more of that. Because you're probably, by human nature, finding out what's going wrong and making your problems slightly better problems. And this really struck me. So on the way back to the office, I racked my brain for what was going right at Business Property Trust. And I couldn't come up with one thing. When I got back to the office, I asked my vice president, Kelly, what was going right. Now, Kelly's thought, hold on. She ran to the file cabinet and brought this back and said, now this is going right. And this is the financial statements on a self-storage property that we sort of ended up with that came with a business park that we'd completely forgotten about it. In fact, the self-storage occupancy was going up, and there was a waiting list because in the recession, people needed a place to put their things. So we liked Mark's idea. We wanted to take him up on it. So we bought 2 more of these self-storage properties just to make sure the first one wasn't a fluke. They were wildly successful. And at that moment, Kelly and I decided this is a better business. It's not only a better business, but it's an actual company with employees and a culture and a brand and customers. The other company was pretty much a collection of assets. So this really spoke to Kelly and I, the idea of having a company that's more like a company. So we decided right then and there, we're going to pivot. We're going all in on storage. We're selling the old company. We're going to go with a new one. We raised $10 million, make a couple of very key hires, and we go to town.
So my point of inflection, or where I really knew that we were onto something, was in Austin, Texas. It was November 7th, 2012, which you may or may not remember was Election Day. And I was with a group of friends, EOers, at my forum at a retreat, and we were watching the election results come in. And that year there was this weird initiative called I-502 in Washington. It was for marijuana. And marijuana now, for the last election, last couple of years, it's so common. We're like, okay, another state, not a big deal. This was a big deal at the time because with Washington and Colorado, the first states to ever contemplate full legalization. So this was totally just a crazy scenario. My mind, as we were watching it all together, Barry was there, Jill was there with me, and we're saying, this thing's gonna pass. And then we just started, as a bunch of entrepreneurs in a room do, start saying, where does this go? What does this look like in a decade, in 15 years? My mind started racing, and as soon as I got back to Portland, I reached out to my good friend and EOer, Peter Metz, over at Sockeye, and they really helped me take what was a rough concept and an idea and refine it through a process that we could take it to market. So the idea and the concept to be able to create something that's different and better in this space in a $14 billion market with no brands was what really excited me to make that happen. And I should say, my dad was a cop for 30 years here in Portland, so I'm a big fan of laws. I follow them. My dad was kind of on point to make sure that happened. But I also believe I'm not sure if I can get behind a law that makes a plant illegal. So just philosophically, this opportunity and how it aligned with me personally got me really excited and had the energy to step forward and make it happen. Ended up going back to our bank. We were able to negotiate a settlement with them that made sense. We ended up selling the largest business unit of iStores, the e-commerce business. And I made a commitment to myself that I was going to pick a date, draw a line in the sand, that I was no longer going to tolerate doing work that didn't speak to me and I couldn't get my full energy and force behind. I calendared that event and I committed to make a decision with respect to the other two business units.
Fast forward to today, bargain storage is absolutely thriving, and I'm thriving with it. It's truly a different and better storage company. Whatever the old stodgy industry is doing, we're literally doing the opposite, and that speaks to me. We have 60 amazing people working for us now who've created almost 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and Yelp just in the last year for our 15,000 customers. The company's worth multiples of what the old company was worth, but more important than that, we've really created something special here, something that I can look back on and be very proud of.
So fast forward from election day, November in 2012, where this was just an idea, to today. We're the #1 selling cannabis-infused beverage in Oregon and Washington State. We recently expanded to Arizona. We're in 450 stores. The product has been received extremely well. We recently raised a round of capital at a $15 million valuation in 22 months of founding the business. We're really, we've hit our pace, and more importantly, I found work that I'm deeply passionate about. I found the ability to hire a management team to focus on what they do best so I can focus on what I'm best at, which is innovating new products and helping to grow. And beyond just creating a product and making money, this is an opportunity for us to break a stigma that's been too long and too old associated with cannabis and who fits in what category. And that's what we're really excited about.
So as I look back at how I ended up at Business Property Trust, it's just that. I ended up there. You know, one thing just led to another, led to another, led to another, and I ended up there. And that business could never speak to me the way bargain storage speaks to me. But it didn't need to take a total crisis to open my eyes to pivoting to something better, but it did. Simon Sinek's written a great book called Find Your Why. Now, everyone in here has a purpose deep inside them and some things that they can do better than other people. And Simon says, find your why. I couldn't agree more. Find your why, but I say match your why. Find a company and a culture and a role in that company and an industry that can get you excited. And if you want to take it a step further, find your way. That is, find that company and industry and find one that's going a place that you can get really excited about. Because if you're really jazzed about work, it's really not work, right? You spend all this time at work. I mean, life's too short. It can be exciting. It can be fun. So I say, match your why, match your way. Pivot to something better if you're not there already.
So does everybody remember your first high school coach or sports coach with that adage, winners never quit and quitters never win? If I can be frank, that's bullshit. Everyone in this room, we talked about before, you quit your first job. There's a reason why, and you're probably, hopefully, doing something better than you did from that first job. So for me, it's that understanding we got to get behind or beyond the stigma of you can't quit, or this is momentum that's taking control, or I've got all of this fixed expense with this industry or this concept. And we've got to get beyond that so we can truly embrace what speaks to our heart, and that's where the energy to do great work lives. Additionally, what I learned here is that comfort kills, and good is the enemy of great. We've got to be able to trust our heart to do what we know is right. I think in summation, what would make Barry and I say this entire talk was a win is if we hear from one of you tomorrow, next week, next year, and we hear about your pivot to something better. And I don't know what that is for you. Maybe it's your job, maybe it's your health, maybe it's your company, maybe it's been a relationship that you've just tolerated for too long. Maybe things are great for you, maybe they're good, and maybe 10 or 20 years of good just isn't attractive enough for you right now. What I would offer for your consideration is sometime today, grab that smartphone, the calendar part of it, hit a button, pick a date, draw a line in the sand that you're going to agree with yourself. You're going to make a calendar for your future. You're going to say, I'm going to make a decision on that topic. And when you do, email Barry and I. We'd be happy to cheer you on. Thank you.